In this video, Redcat Ascent 18, getting the over and underdrive gear set in it. We're going to do a baseline test. We're then going to put the gears in and see how much difference does it really make. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy and this is Roadside RC. You'll tend to find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. And if you've never had overdrive in an RC crawler, it tends to do basically two things. It'll shorten your steering radius because the front tires will spin a little bit faster and pull the rears around. And it'll help you kind of with some climbing, and it'll help you get up and over some obstacles, as those front tires are the ones that do all the work. So what we're going to test out here is just here in my garage, two simple little tests. One, how much distance does it take for the truck to do a 180-degree corner, and some simple little just like indoor crawler course obstacles, watching the truck go up and over those, and then comparing it afterwards to how it does once we put these gears in it. Let's get started with that baseline. Test number one is pretty simple. We just drive right up here next to my tire, full right, and we see what the radius is that it takes it to turn around. And that distance is right at 24 inches, and we'll just give it a mark. And then a basic obstacle here on the workbench. Up and over. Quick note, I have all of these 3D printed obstacles that I use to play with this crawler for free on printables. So I can leave a link down in the video description to where you can go get these for free. Let's show a baseline here of what it looks like without overdrive. So this is factory car, and what you can see is front wheel makes one revolution, so does the rear wheel. Just like that. So that's a 1-1 standard drive, and after we do this, the front wheel is going to be spinning more than the rear. And now that we've done that baseline test, it's time to start getting these parts in there. Good news, the tools for this are actually pretty simple. You obviously need the parts themselves, RER 31798. You need a magnetic tray to capture all your little parts. A pair of needle nose pliers is really helpful for getting the pins out. Obviously, some tool to get the nuts off of the wheels. A 1.5 millimeter nut driver. I use this one from MIP, plus this electric screwdriver that's done me really well. And some blue thread locker if you have brass on the corners and you were doing metal screws into metal parts. I can have a link to all of these down in the video description. With the wheel off, we're going to be taking these 1, 2, 3, 4 screws off that hold that outer portal cover on. And then that portal cover comes right off, and we have access to the small and big gear here. Now we need to get this hex off and lose those little cross pins. I like to stick all my stuff in a nice magnetic parts tray. That way I don't lose them. Now we can back this off and get that gear off of there. And then in here, I think that gear will also come just straight off. Again, be careful of that little cross pin in there. You do not want to lose that bad boy. Now these parts, RER 31798, inside there they actually have the front and the rear gears marked. And what you can see is it's just a tooth or so off. So the rear 13 tooth top with a 24 tooth rear means that is going to spin slower versus a 15 tooth top 22 big one. And I'm just gonna, for my own sanity, take out one small gear and one big gear, making sure that I definitely keep them separate because I don't want to get all these confused. I'm gonna go ahead and just take the small one and stick it back on that axle. You can see it there, fits on beautifully. I'm gonna take the larger gear, slide it in here, making sure that cross pin goes in nicely. Go ahead and stick it in there. Voila, just like that, we are in good shape. As I put these screws back in, I'm going to use just a little bit of blue Loctite because metal in metal, you want a Loctite so those screws do not back out on you. Just like that, that side's all back together, pin in, hex is also on. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over and do the other front. I'll do that off camera. It should be exactly the same as what I just did on this side. Now we have both front overdrive gears in, and we can see just how much difference that alone will make. Tape is pretty much front and rear there at the same amount. So look at that right there. We're already after one revolution. So if this was all the way back, then that means 25%. So that's about half. So maybe like 13% overdrive is somewhere what you would get. And so of course, as we keep going, you can just see how that front is spinning. So this is a choice that you can make. If you want to, you can just do only the front. And now it is on to doing the same job, but for the rear. Very similar to the front, we're going to pull the hex off. We're going to grab the cross pin, and we're going to take those 4 screws off. Pull that off. Just like we saw with the front, we have a gear in the top that we'll pull out, and on the bottom the shaft and the gear together will come out. And then we have the rear bag. Again, it comes with some extra pins, which is super nice of them. Go ahead and slide. It's a small gear. Word of warning here. So you can actually pull the whole stub shaft out, which is kind of handy. Getting the gear on that pin is really, really hard. As it turns out, because this gear is smaller, the pin actually needs to be smaller as well. And they provide that pin in the kit, so that is great. And then just like the front, that gear comes off. A new bigger gear, which goes on nice and easy, comes in. We'll put that back in the housing, and the whole thing goes back together. This is plastic, so no need to worry about Loctite on the rear. Awesome, now that's all back together, and just like I did before, I'm going to swap around and do the other side here off camera. All right, now, moment of truth. Both front overdrive and rear underdrive are in. Oh, look at that. Yes, we're probably plus or minus, there's a little bit of slop in it. So probably plus or minus 25% overdrive is what I'm guessing that number is. With 2 revolutions, we're half. With 3 revolutions, we're 3/4. Then on the 4th revolution, we match back up. Check that out. Same thing again. We're going to pull up. Hard right. Does it actually make a difference? Oh, just a little bit. Literally just the distance of the tape. So what is that? About an inch less. Something along that line. Up and over. You can actually see it bind there and pull on this a little bit as it actually pushed it together. But of course the true test will be when this truck is out on the rocks, on the crawler courses, whether it's at my indoor crawler course at Cookeville Hobbies or it's somewhere outside. So stay tuned for that video. That'll be in a separate video, my next run with this, with some more modifications on it. If you're curious to see that, there'll be a Redcat Ascent 18 playlist. It'll pop up over here to your right. Stay connected to that. You can follow that playlist, click subscribe and like. If you have any questions about what I did or comments, leave them down in the comment section. And the parts that I talked about and the tools that we used were all in the video description. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.